Welcome back to Creepy Kitty Creations. I can't believe I'm only putting out my first video in May. I mean, that's just crazy. Thank you guys for being so patient. I had hoped to get this particular video out a bit earlier, but for those of you who follow Instagram, you'll probably know that we had a little bit of a mishap at my house last week, as we had torrential rain in New Zealand, and it was a good solid 3 days of rain, and this is what my craft room looks like now, because the ceiling basically started falling apart. The leak was coming through, water soaked through 2 mattresses all the way to the floor. So now I'm going to have to clear all of this up so that the builders can repair it and paint the walls. So if my next video is a bit late coming out, it will be because I've had to put all of this away in storage so that the builder can do their job, which is gutting, because I was getting right into this project and really looking forward to it. So thank you all for being so understanding with everything being so late, and yeah. Which brings me to today's video, where I'm going to start making my very first ball jointed doll out of polymer clay. Now, I don't know about you guys, but one of my favourite movies while growing up was Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and there is a particular scene with Truly Scrumptious in it where she's dressed up as a doll on a music box, and she has this whole wee musical sequence, and she's all moving like all in small jointed movements, and I have always wanted to make a doll of her. So I thought, why not? Because I decided to make a ball jointed doll for myself, and I wanted to do it of a inhuman character of my version of the Tooth Fairy, which would be very difficult. So I thought, let's start with something simpler first. So we're going to start with Truly. Let's get started. So I started out by planning the doll on Procreate, because with my RA I find it quite hard to draw things, especially symmetrical. So drawing digitally makes things more manageable for me. So I actually used the Generation 3 Draculara as a reference just to get the body parts and proportions right, because I don't know about you guys, but I love her proportions. Now, I came up with this character design about 4 years ago, around the same time as I did my Possessed Nun, and I've been meaning to make her ever since. So she's sort of my adapted version of Truly's doll look in the movie. So this is the doll I'm going to be making after I finished making this base. So I'm just trying to figure out all the joints and how they're going to go together, and splitting the body into all its different parts with rough sketches and whatnot. And then I just keep going over my work. And Procreate has a really neat assistive drawing tool that you can click, and it will actually, if you're drawing something on one side, it will fill it in on the opposite side so that everything stays perfectly symmetrical, which was so helpful for me. I've been feeling like I've been wanting to try something a bit different, and that's kind of why I started this project as well. And it's something that I don't have to film the entirety of and put a video up right at the end when everything's finished. I thought it would be cool to have something that I can put up bit by bit while I finish other dolls. So that will have this BJD Diaries along with other videos to fill in between. So I still needed to print this off so that I have it physically in front of me. So I did that and put it into an A3 diary. And now I'm just going to fill it out with tin foil so that the body will be hollow. I've been watching lots of tutorials on how to do this, but I'm going into this expecting to do it totally wrong and make a lot of mistakes. I kind of want to do this as an exercise in, well, I guess you'd call it anti-perfectionism, because even when I'm starting something new, I feel and get really down on myself when it doesn't go perfectly the first time, because I want to do things well. I want them to look perfect. So I've been stressing about that with lots of things lately. So I thought, well, let's try and start something where I know it doesn't have to be perfect. It can just be something fun, and as long as I do my best, it will be fine. And if I have fun doing it, that's the most important thing. So I'm not going to focus too much on everything being perfect and perfectly symmetrical, perfectly smooth. because I already know I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to make lots and lots of mistakes, but I want to make it into something fun so I can sort of reprogram my brain a bit. I've seen that other people who make ball jointed dolls will use this circle stencil to get the exact sizes for the joints that they need, so I thought I'd try that too, and I've made a wee note of it. But spoiler alert, something I found is that I end up making them a bit too big. But again, it's something I'm not going to stress about because it just means I'll make everything else a little bit bigger to suit. But this was still a really good process to do, and now I know for next time how small to make them so that I don't make them accidentally too big, because a lot of the people who use a stencil and they'll sort of pass the ball through it like a hoop, and it will scrape off the excess clay, but that's people who use air dry clay, where you can just wet it and it will scrape it and scrape it and scrape it until you get a perfectly symmetrical sphere, which of course you can't do with polymer clay. So I also resign myself to the fact that I will not be getting perfect spheres, but I'll try and get as close as I can, and hopefully this will help. One of the reasons I really wanted to make my own ball jointed doll is I actually had an experience really early on when I first started this hobby, and I bought myself a ball jointed doll. I just only started customizing for maybe 6 months to a year, so I didn't know a lot about them, but I saw this beautiful doll and she was like a vampire. I think her name is like Huanju or something, and I found one on AliExpress. So yeah, I know a lot of you will think, oh, and know where this is going, but back then I didn't know about recasts, so when she arrived I was so happy, and I put pictures of her up on Instagram, and a lot of people got quite mean because she was a recast, and of course I was just I had no idea what was going on. I was just sort of replying like, I don't understand, what's a recast? And then of course they told me, and it was quite gutting, so she's stayed in her box, and I probably, if I do customize her, it won't be on this channel. But ball jointed dolls are really expensive for a reason. It's because they take so long to make, but I can't really afford to buy a legitimate one, so I thought, if I don't want to buy recast for obvious reasons, and I can't afford to buy a legitimate one, why don't I try making my own? So that's partly what inspired this concept here, and why I wanted to try and make my own, turn it into something fun, and yeah. So first step is making all of the joints, and some of the bigger ones I've filled with tin foil, and I found that they were far too big, because I know that I've seen someone where they put on a layer of clay and then they'll bake them, and then they'll cut it in half and pull the tin foil out and then stick them back together again. So I wanted to give that a try. Some of the joints are way too small for that, so I've just made them a solid ball of clay, but these ones I do want to try that and see how it goes. So one of the main reasons why I haven't been able to put any videos up lately is since last October, after putting out the Megan video, I just crashed hard, because I've also had some, those of you who don't follow me on Instagram may not know that I'm also a book cover designer and an author. So I've had a few book cover commissions, which has been really good and really fun, and I have really enjoyed it, but because of chronic fatigue syndrome, it means that I'm quite limited at how much I can do at one time. So every day is full of compromises. If I work on this, then I can't work on that, or if I do some writing, then I can't do dolls, and it's just worked out that the things that I've been committed to and had to finish has been taking up most of my time, and then the time where I have set aside for dolls, I've had a flare and can hardly walk, or my joints are in a lot of pain. So I've not had a very lucky year, and as you saw earlier, we had our ceiling partially collapse. So it seems like everyone's been having a difficult 2025. I hope you all have been having a bit more luck than me and have been able to enjoy and have nice things happen this year so far. These videos are definitely not supposed to be a tutorial. I kind of wanted to just have a series of totally unedited progress videos of making a ball jointed doll so that I could show the steps involved and the mistakes or things that can happen or go wrong, totally unedited, so people can see rather than going to the shiny look at how this came out. I feel like that's quite important, and especially with my main goal for this trying to counter the perfectionism. So I'm hoping that will encourage people to do the same and enjoy the progress of making their own doll as well. Getting these balls perfectly smooth is really hard, but I just keep rolling them around and wait until that they go a lot more smooth, because I know they're going to be a bit of a pain to sand. I wasn't sure whether this was a good time to start the body, but based on some tutorials I'd watched, I kind of wanted to do it at the same time as the joints, so that's why I've got that big chunk of body there. And I saw they made the body in full, and then they cut out the top part where the chest was going to be articulated and managed to pull it off the tin foil in one piece without squishing it because they pre-baked it, which I completely forgot about and ended up having to just cut it in half and pull it out, and it gets all stretched and squishy, and it was a bit of a disaster, so I know not to do that next time. I thought now would be a good time to make the sockets for the hips, and yeah, spoiler alert, no, I shouldn't have. I should have left them the way they were until I'd baked the joints and finished all the balls, because I already know I'm going to have to go back and basically sand all of that part of the hips off so that I can sculpt around the joints and fix my mistake. And here I am trying to to split the top body without having pre-baked it like a total numpty. So, see, didn't go very well, but at least I know for next time, and you guys can learn from my mistake. Really silly mistake, golly. But it's okay, everything is fixable. I guess that's the beauty of polymer clay, is that even if something goes totally wrong, you can grab a Dremel with a wee saw and saw it in half and make it bigger and wider, add more clay, and that way nothing really goes to waste. So I think that will be my next mission after all of this is baked, because I'm trying to smooth everything and getting it all done now when I really should have waited for later. So the original ball jointed doll that I was excited to make, and I've actually already got her schematic drawn, is this tooth fairy. I wrote a piece of microfiction for a horror collection that I'm working on, inspired by nursery rhymes and fairy tales and urban legends, and one of them is a tooth fairy. And I was really excited to make a doll version of this character because I describe her, she's quite skeletal, and her skin, she's basically made up of millions and millions of teeth. So I was just like, ooh, this could make such a cool ball jointed doll, or even like an altered ball jointed doll into like a marionette. I just thought that would be so cool and creepy. But then after drawing her and looking at the more inhuman elephants So, the more inhuman elements, and I was just staring at it and I thought, this is probably a bit too ambitious for a beginner, especially if I want to be making all the little indents to show all of the millions of little teeth. So that's when I decided to make Truly instead, so that I had something easier and a more human reference to work with first. So I'm excited to see how she turns out, but I'm also still really excited to work on this tooth fairy. Because you know me, I love a good horror doll, so making a doll with skin of millions of teeth and 4 mouths and no eyes is going to be really fun. Now, even though this doll's going to be for Truly, and Truly only uses a very limited array of joint positions during her doll dance, I still want to make a doll that I can use the schematic for other dolls, so I kind of want to give her more flexibility in her neck. So now that all the joints are baked, I'm going to cut them in half and try pulling the stuffing out of them to make them hollow. So wish me luck. At first I thought that it being all flaky and brittle like this was normal just because it was quite thin and I was basically pulling it apart, but after looking at it before recording this, it looks like that usually means you haven't baked it for long enough, so I might need to bake it for longer next time. But I'm going to be gluing it back together with Super Sculpey and putting another great big ball of clay over it so that it should hopefully fuse it all back together again and reinforce it and make it strong, but I won't really know that until I'm drilling the holes in it to give the joints mobility, so we'll find out later. Putting it back together before getting the new lot of clay around it was a much bigger pain than I thought it was going to be, so I'm not too sure how to combat this next time, because I definitely can't just make a giant ball of clay because they'll be really heavy if it's not got anything on the inside. Or do I just leave the tinfoil on the inside and drill right through it? I don't know, maybe something to try next time, see if that works instead. Do any of you also watch KP Creations, who works with polymer clay, and she makes these cute little rock golems and covered in grass and stuff? I don't know why, but whenever I do anything with polymer clay lately, I just get this song stuck in my head that she sings with editor Sarah about the big old ball of clay. Hey, hey! So this time I learned, I wish I looked it up before I'd made all the little joints. If you want to get a perfectly round sphere in polymer clay, you start out just rolling it in the palm of your hand, and rather than focusing on how wide you're doing it, focus on pressure. Put as much pressure as you can at first, and that will get all of the wee wrinkles out and where the joins are. And then after that, if you do it more towards the flat of your thumb, then and use smaller rolling motions, then you'll get more of a circle than an oval. So I'm trying that this time and it works out really well. I hardly had to sand them at all. And I'm just going to repeat this for all of the bigger ball joints, and some of them will get significantly bigger than they are now, so they are still a little bit heavy, but not too bad. Oh, another exciting development for any of you who have watched my Blood Nun video and heard the short story. I have almost finished outlining the novel version of that short story, and I'm feeling really good about it and really excited. So I am hoping to start drafting that really soon, because I know a lot of you have really enjoyed the story and we're quite excited at the idea of it becoming a novel. And yeah, it's just that's my win for the week. The almost 12,000 word outline. Just bullet points of this happens, then this happens, and then this happens, and oh, don't forget to include this later and tie this in here. And I'm trying really hard to get the hip ball joints quite similar in size, which is surprisingly tricky considering they started out slightly different sizes. So I just keep adding and removing some of the extra clay and comparing them until they're roughly the right size. But then, because I want to make double joints instead of just the single joints, although I may change to that later, I haven't quite decided yet. It means that it's got another smaller ball underneath it that's going to get attached with polymer clay to look a little bit like a peanut. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I can make her double jointed. That's my goal. Now, I had hoped to include more in this video, but that's when disaster struck. And this is actually the night that we had all the torrential rain and the ceiling was dripping and we could just see all of the water damage up in the ceiling. So I had to panic move everything, move all of my dolls into my room. All this water, that filled up in 5 minutes. So all of this is going to have to go. All of the dolls on the shelf have been moved to my room for safety, so I'm going to have to stop the video here. I hope you enjoy it and that you're looking forward to more of this BJD Diary series. See you next time!